What's happening, family? It's your man, Mark Black. Happy Friday, all my beautiful black people out there. So let's get into it, peoples. Before we do that, just a couple of things as usual, right? First of all, I wanted to say thank you to all my subscribers. Y'all definitely have been doing work, and I can see it, and it's noticeable. So keep up the good work, right? Share these broadcasts with your friends and family. Watch them yourselves. You know what I mean? I recognize that I broadcast for lengthy periods of time. So I know that it's hard to kind of sit down maybe at a 1.5 hour stretch at a time and really watch my broadcast. But the more you watch them, the more you're going to get from them. Make sure that you share them. Hit me with the thumbs up. Remember, family, likes, shares, and subscriptions are absolutely free. If I'm ever on a broadcast and it seems like that I'm hitting it on all cylinders, by the way, peace and welcome to the broadcast. Gab, thanks for stopping by and supporting the brother. If it seems like I'm hitting it on all cylinders and you got a few spare coins you want to throw your brother's way, this is the link where you do that. For those of you who are interested in helping to support me kind of long term and want to, help me to get some additional projects off the ground to be able to provide you guys with a lot more. Right, this is the means by which you do that. Go ahead and select that link there for my Patreon, and that will be supremely helpful. Again, I know my audience, black folk, we ain't all the time got the bread like that. So if you got it and you feel like you can do it, do it. But remember, light bill, water bill, gas bill, all that stuff. That shit comes first, okay? You're gonna get my content live for free. If you're a subscriber and you're interested in viewing some of my old live content, all you have to do is just shoot me an email at Black Q&A. That's Black Q, the word and A at Gmail. And I'll send you links to any content that you want, so you still have access to it for free. But this is an avenue to help support a brother more long term and to throw a few spare coins my way if you got it, right? So, yeah, Gab, I'm definitely going to keep going in. And again, I definitely appreciate your love and support. All right, so family, TGIF, right? So we're going to make sure that this broadcast, because I'm not going to usually tend to broadcast on the weekends, this broadcast is going to be kind of the one that I hope hits everything that we want to have hit, right? The one that's going to be the one that you talk about over the weekend, okay? So the title of today's broadcast is The Blame Game, all right? As you well know, I usually include a quote related to the topic that I'm going to be discussing today. So I'll read you that quote. You also find the quote in the description field along with all the links to offer me financial support and my social media via Twitter and Facebook. But the quote for today is: guilt is feeling bad about what you have done. Shame is feeling bad about who you are. All it is muddling up things you have done with who you are. Quotes from Marcus Brigstocke, a comedian, right? Now, what does this have to do with the title of the broadcast, The Blame Game? I'll tell you. Normally, when I plan to do a broadcast, I've got a pretty good idea usually of what I want to discuss. By the way, that email address, that's blackqa@gmail.com. You can also email me with ideas about broadcasts and topics you'd like to have discussed, and so on and so forth. And if it's something that you're interested enough in to where you might want to contribute, although I use a platform that isn't Google Hangouts, if it's important enough for you to want to discuss it, I'm even willing to do a normal Google Hangouts live so that you can jump in and have your say, right? So that's another thing that I want you guys to know. But how that quote relates to the blame game is actually simple yet complex at the same time, right? Because first of all, a lot of us native English speakers tend to use guilt and shame synonymously, right? Because when we're talking about blame, that usually involves the assigning of guilt, right? Or we think someone is responsible for something, okay? And then also too, shame is involved in that as well. But we use those two terms synonymously when in point of fact, there is actually a clear difference between guilt and shame, right? And the blame game is only able to operate because people don't understand that really basic fact. So that you don't get caught up in the blame game. So you don't get caught up in people slinging shit at you, trying to see what sticks. Let's discuss today the differences between guilt and shame. All right? The first thing to note about guilt is that guilt is determined as a part of a process, right? In other words, truly guilty individuals are only determined to be so after a clear process has been followed or a chain of events have occurred, okay? When one commits an act that one can be culpable for, right, or be considered guilty, indicted upon, guilt requires a few things in order to be established, right? Guilt requires the presence of evidence, right? In other words, you have to have something that can be clearly established to have been shown that indicts this person as having committed an offense. That ties into the second thing that guilt requires. Guilt also requires an actual victim, right? In other words, if I come and I slap you in the face, I slapped you in the face. You're the victim. Thus, if it's been established that it was me that slapped you in the face, am guilty of assaulting you. Okay? So guilt requires three things. There has to be the presence of evidence of a wrongdoing or a bad action of some sort. And there also has to be a clear victim. And there also has to be the process, right? It's funny. A lot of the time, you'll find many of us black folk who will basically try someone without any type of clarity in the process, right? Like via social media or the court of public opinion, as it's commonly referred to, right? Where there's no rules, there's no processes that establish clear chains of evidence. There's no clearly established victim sometimes. There's just the mob. And there can be no justice in the presence of the mob, right? Because mobs aren't interested in justice. They're not interested in establishing clear violations and making sure that those violations are addressed. Mobs are interested in emotion. They're interested in the spectacle, the bread and circuses of it all, right? Because one thing about guilt, family, is that once guilt has been established, it requires consequences. In other words, family, guilt, the reason why guilt is based around a process or the determining or the laying of guilt on someone is a process is because of what is required after that process has been completed and guilt has been laid. It demands consequences. If someone has committed a violation against someone else and it has been clearly established that they have done so through a clear chain of evidence, reasonable evidence, and we followed the steps in the process of establishing that evidence and proving within a reasonable level of proof that this person has done this wrong, committed this action, it requires consequences be laid. But it's a whole different ball game when you start dealing with shame, right? When you start using language like, you motherfuckers should blah, 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 blah. Or, all you sons of bitches don't even understand that blah, 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 blah. And so on and so forth, right? Shame is a completely different ball of wax from the establishment of clear guilt. Shame has nothing to do with the evidence of a violation or the presence of someone who is violated. Shame is all about you. I can tell you for a certainty, family, that going forward, after this broadcast today, your understanding about determining guilt and shame should be simplicity itself. Because guilt, the process of assigning guilt to someone, to you, for example, is going to involve some degree of investigation. People are going to be asking questions, right? They're going to be saying, okay, this is what we've perceived that has occurred. Here's the person or persons or objects or whatever the case may be that was wronged or violated or messed up or destroyed by this person's alleged actions. This is the evidence that we have that either indicts this person, right? That either makes it clear that they're guilty or that is exculpatory, right? That makes it clear that they didn't do it. Here's the mitigating circumstances. Like, yeah, they did it, but this happened, which almost forced them to do it. And thus, while they're guilty of having done it, this mitigating circumstances makes it likely that anybody in this circumstance would have done the same thing and thus no consequences. And so on and so forth, right? I mean, I don't need to go on all day about all the different types of processes that are in place, that are possible when the matter at hand is about determining someone's guilt, right? It is one of the most toughest responsibilities that we have as a people is figuring out whether or not someone's guilty of something. Justice would demand that because the establishment of clear guilt requires consequences, and sometimes those consequences are severe, they're dire consequences, that we better had damn well be sure that when we've assigned or laid guilt on someone, that they are deserving of it, that we've established it reasonably. Which is why you have all of these aphorisms that talk about being innocent until you're proven guilty and things like that. It is to prevent the assignment of guilt to the innocent. We can't ever stop that from happening. There will always be, under any type of system of justice or whatever, innocent people that get caught up. It's a shame and it's a fact, but it's truth. But any process that clearly establishes guilt for someone had better at least do two things. One, it had better get all of the details it can, right, to establish clearly a position of guilt for the individual accused. And it should always err on the side of innocence of the person accused. This doesn't mean that we let people get away with heinous ass shit. Not at all. But what this means is that whenever someone establishes or attempts to establish that someone's committed a wrong of some sort, that we need to have the presumption in place that unless we can clearly establish the wrong was committed, that we have to withhold our judgment, right? So in other words, family, guilt requires active participation on both sides of the fence. The person who is being accused of doing something that would make them guilty has the responsibility of establishing as best they're able their innocence, right? Because they don't want to be punished or experience consequences for something they didn't do. But we have the responsibility of withholding our judgment until we actually have the evidence that makes them guilty. See, because when you start playing the blame game, right? The blame game isn't operating from a position of inquiry. It's not operating from a position of establishing a clear chain of events that leads inevitably to someone's responsibility, their guilt, and thus the laying of consequences upon them. No. Shame ain't got shit to do with any of that. Shame is directed at the person. Not what they've done, but at the person, right? And you see evidence of this shaming all the time amongst our people. It's endemic. And there is actually a bit of a reason as to why that is. I don't know if many of you have noticed in the last, say, let's call it 30, 40 years. But there has been a clear push in our society to accept the word of certain individuals without question. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but I have. Things like hashtag believe her, right? Hashtag me too, and so on, right? There's been this push in our society that certain individuals, fuck it, I'm just going to come out and say it, women. Peace, King. Welcome to the broadcast, brother. It's good to have you as always. I've missed you. I'm glad you're here today. Thank goodness it's Friday, right? But there has been this push to allow women to speak, to make pronunciations, to lay accusations upon individuals without even the need to establish that there has been a violation of themselves or a violation of them in the first place. And this is a motherfucking problem. This is a problem. Because you see, family, if you'll notice, when these accusations are made, we're being forced into a dilemma that creates a false dichotomy. On the one hand, you have this person who is alleging that they are a victim. And no one in today's world wants to ever have the appellation of victim blaming assigned to them. Brother, I'm talking about our people blaming one another. Because what really prompted this broadcast today, and I was going to share this later on in the broadcast, but I always tell a personal story that acts as sort of a glue to tie myself to this situation so that you guys understand that what I'm saying isn't because I'm not experiencing it or not aware of it. It's because I've seen it myself, or I've been a victim of it myself, or I've experienced it myself, right? Because my channel, although it's our channel, this is also my safe space. Because Lord only knows that black men don't have a fucking safe space anywhere. So this is my safe space. I can say what I feel, how I feel, what I experience, what my reality is right here, and have it immortalized to where no one can diminish my narrative. So let me share with you this story. I was on Facebook this morning. I don't know why at this point I still go on Facebook, but I digress. I was on Facebook this morning. By the way, if you're not following me on Facebook, you can find me there, MarkBlack1831, and you can also find me on Twitter at MarkBlack1831. And I see a post from this individual who will remain nameless. But this individual is somebody that I like, but they're problematic at times, right? In other words, most of the time, I fucks with this individual, right? This individual is very artistic, writes poetry, is into art, and so on and so forth. And he's dope. So I can ride with that type of shit. But then, every so often, he'll do some shit or say some shit or post some shit that's just like, yeah, I don't know. I can't ride. But this motherfucker is pretty savvy. So you have to have your game face on when you fuck with this individual, because you never know. No matter how innocuous a post may seem, how innocent it might appear at first blush, you never know when the fuckery's gonna commence. So, in my timeline, I see a post from this individual. And the post says, and I quote, "Why are so few strong black women getting married?" And I know what you're thinking, family. Your fuckery sense is tingling right now. I bet you. Your fuckery sense is tingling right now. King said, I think we as a people need to focus on building each other, those that know how to do it, and help the others to become a better version of themselves in our nation. King, you know I agree with you. Drop the mic. We definitely need to focus on building up each other. The problem that I've seen with that, though, King, recently, right? Because I bet you probably noticed a tenor or a tone to my broadcast recently. They've been a little bit more strident than I normally would be, right? They've been a little bit more addressing topics with the willingness to be combative than I was previously. And that is because I have started to understand that there is a trend among us, among our people, that sets up scapegoats and sacred cows. And it seems that no matter how the roles are labeled or whatever, one group of us is always made the equivalent of the scapegoat, and the other group of us is always made the equivalent of the sacred cow. And that is a problem, because the dehumanization of the scapegoat part of our people means that the uplift of our people has become a zero-sum game, meaning that we are seeing a lot of conflict that is being driven because one portion of our people only sees their rise as a concomitant effect of the diminishment of the other. King said, our people is not nation-minded building people. We think too much individually and not collectively as a nation. So that is how we dividing ourselves and not growing as a nation. I don't see anything I can disagree with that in that statement. I really don't. As a matter of fact, King, I would argue right alongside of you that this almost narcissistic upholding of black individualism is, it has the risk or the potential of signaling the death knell of our people. Okay? So I'm right there with you. And I really thank you for doing what you do, contributing to the broadcast. All right. So how come strong black women aren't getting married? And again, some of y'all are really swift on the uptake. As soon as I said that statement, your fuckery sense started tingling. But it took me a minute. I'm a little slow. All right? So me being the data-driven, analytical type of brother that I am, I took the question at face value. Now, I did have a feeling, right? So I'm sharing with y'all some truth about myself, all right? I did feel some kind of way. And I don't mean that in like the really strong, I was just outraged sense. Peace, Lila. Welcome to the broadcast, sister. Glad to have you. But there was something niggling at me about the use of the adjective strong in the initial question. Because in order to answer the question, family, I felt like two things needed to be done. First, I would need to know what it means or what this individual means when they use the term strong in relation to women. And since that definition wasn't given in the initial answer, asking of the question, I couldn't be clear. I couldn't be sure, right? And secondly, because I couldn't be sure, I had to assume, based off of my experience with how people usually phrase this sort of shit, what they typically mean when they say strong black woman and so on and so forth, that I knew what he was asking. So because I did not have a clear establishment of the definition, I had to make an assumption. So your brother, the adventurer, proceeded to offer an answer to the question with the proviso that I was making clear that I was assuming I knew what he meant, and that I also made clear that he had not defined what strong means in relation to black women. Okay, so I said, perhaps it's because they're strong, one guesses, right? I'm not going to speak for every black man out here, but I will say that as a cisgendered, heterosexual black male, I'm not attracted to women who express traits that I typically associate with masculinity. I have no desire innately to sleep with the competition. And that was my first post. Immediately after that post, I then said, now, I'm assuming I knew what you meant by strong in the absence of a definition. So understand and interpret my initial post based off of the fact that I made an assumption. In other words, I could very well be wrong. Now, of course, this individual, like I said, is real slick with this shit. Real slick with it. So to start his contribution in his post, in the feed, in the thread, he posted up 2 screenshots of black women who had answered the question but phrased, why isn't strong black men getting married? And the comments, family, I actually want to see if I can pull up the post. Damn all that. I'll bring you the evidence. Give me just a second here, family. All right. So the screenshots he posted had comments from sisters who was saying being single ain't so bad. They out here carrying that nasty man's disease. They ugly. They can't cook or clean and they stay in the club. I will continue. The strong, confident ones rarely are married. It's only like 3 of them. Because they don't want to submit. Don't nobody want to marry no independent man. That ain't shit. And so on and so forth. King said, for most women, having a strong black man simply means that he can be financially wealthy and not necessarily mentally strong and can help her to grow mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. King, part of the problem, in my opinion, is I don't really give a fuck what black women think a strong black man is. It's not up to them to define our masculinity. And I think that brothers have dropped the ball by fostering this idea that women have anything to say about what men are. If you notice, those comments that I read about with the sisters responding to the opposite question, right? Same question, except take women and replace it with men. And you could see the clear contempt and disrespect that they were splattering all over that thread. The blame game has gotten to the point, family, that no matter the forum, no matter the place, no matter the time, no matter the audience, everyone, including black women, feel perfectly comfortable making the most bald, naked assertions without any evidence whatsoever about brothers. And they not only can do that, but they can do it with impunity. That's right. I mean, because think about this, family. We all talk about there's blame going back and forth, blame going back and forth, blame going back and forth. Let's keep it real, shall we? What you have across every medium of communication are the creation of spaces where white men, white women, Latino men, Latino women, Asian men, Asian women, black women can make the most unfucking founded pronouncements about black men that you could possibly think of. And do it safely. Do it with protection. Do it with financial support. You don't believe me? Pick a forum. Pick one. Any forum. Any forum. I don't give a fuck what it is. Newspaper. Online. Television. Movies. Books. Any form of communication you choose. Black men can be blamed for everything. We are blamed for everything from rampant hypersexuality to the destruction of black families because we don't want to fuck with black women. So on one hand, we're hypersexual and can't even keep our dicks to ourselves no matter how we try. But then on the other hand, we refuse to even look at women. Or we're on the down low. We're accused of rampant criminality. We're accused of being the destroyers of the black family at every turn. No matter what metric you decide to use to measure how the black family has been decimated, black men are usually the one that the fingers get pointed to when it's all said and done. No matter the forum, no matter the medium. That's the blame game today. There's no gender war. Black men ain't really fighting it. King said, I agree with you, my brother. We black men fall into the trap of what people think we should be, and that is because we don't know who we are. We have all lost our identities, our nationality, our culture. King, we actually are lucky in that we have the opportunity to do something that no other people in modern day history have. And that is to actually look at every culture on the planet Earth and pick and choose and build our own culture. So that's not necessarily a hindrance to our growth and our identity as black men. That's actually, if we looked at it truthfully, a benefit. We're not necessarily bound by the dictates of tradition, which can be a velvet rope of its own, right? If you notice, family, in these various fora in which you participate, when you see the blame game, the shame and blame game being practiced, I want you to go through and count all of the naked assertions. An assertion is just a statement that is alleged to be fact, right? So a statement. These naked assertions. And the reason why they're called naked assertions is because they're assertions made without any evidence. You can always tell when shaming is involved because there will be these sweeping pronouncements, these statements allegedly of fact without a single drop of evidence nowhere to be found. Shame is open to interpretation and bias because I think that at this point, any person who is sane and rational understands that the whole goddamned world has an inherent bias of hatred, contempt, and denigration for the black male. Sure, they may not like black people specifically, but the black male is the target of everybody's ire, of everybody's contempt, of everybody's disrespect. We're the target of everybody's efforts to ensure that if no one else doesn't get a chance to get a piece of the pie, it's this motherfucker right here. And that's true even within our own people. And that's what a lot of us won't fucking talk about. And I'm tired of it. I made a commitment recently to myself. And I recognize that I have actually quite a few subscribers of mine who are women. I have quite a few mods of mine that are women. And I respect and love them all. And they know this. However, I made a commitment to myself that with this new understanding of what I'm perceiving to be a war, not just specifically against black people, which is true. We are still at war with whiteism. Always have been, always will be until we defeat it. But with my better and clearer understanding of who's the primary target of the war that we face with whiteism, as opposed to who we're being told is the targets, that I am going to make this a safe place, a safe space for black men and boys. Sisters, you are welcome. I never want you to ever leave, ever. But understand, no black male voice is getting squelched on this channel. I don't give a fuck how offensive what they may say might be to you. I don't give a fuck how upsetting or problematic you might find some of their verbiage. Because black men are fucking hurting. And nobody gives a shit. Black men are being destroyed. And everybody's got their fucking finger in the pie. Everybody's got their finger in the pie. Everybody. So as much as I am for unity with all of us, and all of you who have followed my previous work know that. At the same token, brothers, you are welcome here. You will not be made invisible here. You will not be shamed here. You will not be told to shut the fuck up here. I can't protect you everywhere else, as much as I hate that. But I can protect you here. This is your place to say whatever the fuck you feel like. There's some brothers out there that's damaged as fuck. Because see, shame works really well with us as black men. Because we're constantly being bombarded with messages trying to tell us who the fuck we should be. Never acknowledging who and what we actually are. No. We're constantly being told by somebody what the fuck we're supposed to be acting like, supposed to be dressing like, supposed to be talking like, supposed to be thinking like. We black men are never accepted for just being who and what the fuck we are. Remember, I told you, family, shame is about what you are. The language, the verbiage, the actions that are taken against most of us as black men have nothing to do with our actual culpability or guilt at all. Because none of you have established beyond any fucking, but not even a preponderance of the evidence, let alone a reasonable doubt, that black men have deserved something, or that black men have done something to deserve your absolute opprobrium and denigration, your condemnation. None of you have established that. You haven't established it, no matter how many bullshit studies that you try to quote from these feminist study groups and these womanist study groups and so on and so forth. You haven't established that I, as a black man, am nothing more than a mimetic white man, a budding white, black-skinned hegemon. Those motherfuckers don't even talk to us. When's the last time you heard any type of feminist from the academy said, I did a study, and I did a study of black men by going and actually interviewing and querying black men. And this is the data that I found out from these black men. When's the last time you seen a study like that any motherfucking where? I'll wait. Yet y'all all think y'all know what the fuck we are. Or that you're qualified to tell us who we are. Brothers, I'm speaking specifically to you right now, but this is good advice for all of us. Black people, we need to establish some clear motherfucking boundaries as individuals, as families, and as a collective, and we need to communicate those boundaries often. Every chance we get, we need to be telling everybody where the lines are drawn. King said every other nation is growing because they're sticking with their culture. They have not lost their identity nor their culture. King, they're not growing, bruh. Just take a look around the world. The only nations that are really experiencing any growth, and that's mostly in population, is India and China, and to a certain extent, Africa. The whole rest of the world is in decline. All of these motherfuckers have ran out of stuff to steal. They're not growing. Basically, at this particular point, whether you're talking about wealth, whether you're talking about culture, or whatever the case may be, King, it's all calcified. Right now, they're just making sure to lock in the gains that they've already got to try to retain them because they can't get any more. You're not wrong in that culture is important for us and that we did lose a great deal of our individual cultures from the peoples that we existed among in the motherland. But that just simply means that we are continuing to pass on a culture. We're either passing on what I would like to call a placeholder culture, meaning a culture that we just slapdash together from a bunch of different sources to try to stay alive and give our children some foundation of what it means to be human, or we will put together a conscious, willful culture where we understand the principles and are adhering to them consciously. But either way, none of us are escaping a culture. We can have debates on whether or not our culture is deleterious or not, and I often do. But we lost a culture. We didn't lose culture. You cannot be a human being without culture. We are passing on a culture. And I would argue that to a great extent, our culture is extremely deleterious to us. And this is why you see the continuation of the pathologies that we inherited from the traumas of our ancestors. Because culture is what tells you what to do when there's nothing else that's telling you what to do. And we keep passing it on from generation to generation to generation. 12 generations under slavery, 4 generations under Jim Crow. But family, we need to establish clear motherfucking boundaries and communicate them often, right? In other words, in order to determine who actually is to blame for something, you have to have a rule in place and you have to have what violates that rule. And people have to know what they are. You know, one of the things that the white folks like to trip us up with is ignorance of the law is no excuse. But that's heartless and cold as a motherfucker. How you gonna just willy-nilly pass a rule or a law, not tell me what the fuck it is, and then come and try to hold me responsible for it when I violate it? Nah, we can be better than that. That's why we need to have clear establishment of boundaries, what everybody is referring to as code. And we need to be communicating that code often. And we need to make sure that we get as many people involved in on that code as possible. The reason why is because whatever is going to bind us together as a nation, as my brother King has so eloquently expressed, those principles, those boundaries will by their very nature have to be broad. They cannot be as exclusive as our own individual boundaries can be. I can say, I have no desire to mess with a woman who's out of shape. Now, you don't have to like that standard. It ain't really got nothing to do with you. It's my boundary. I'm not saying I hold that, by the way. I'm just saying, I'm giving that as an example. All right? If I communicate that to you, you're entitled to feel any kind of way about that you want to feel. That doesn't obligate me to do shit. Just because you have a bias about something I am or something I hold to or something I trust in, something I believe in, something I am, that don't entitle you to anything when it comes to me. We automatically know, family, when we're involved in the blame game because we see all these motherfucking naked, bald assertions of things with no evidence. As a matter of fact, family, this is going to throw you for a loop. Shaming works really well, especially when there is no clear victim. That's right. When you use these broad principles or these broad ideas to malign, to denigrate. I'll give you an example. There are women out there right now who are shitting all over men. And they are not blaming us because of individual actions that we're culpable for. They're taking everything that we are, everything that they can see that we are, right? Because most of y'all don't interact with black men. You interact with the caricature of a black man that you have in your head. You're not really interested in the reality of black maleness. None of your black males. You know them. That's what you say. I know this nigga. I know what these niggas is on. So you interact with that caricature. But I digress. They take that caricature of what they think we are, and then they put all of the traits and aspects of that caricature under one word and indict us based off of that one word, with every woman being the victim. They say patriarchy. The black male is the way he is because of patriarchy. Or they'll say shit like toxic masculinity as juxtaposed by non-toxic masculinity, with, of course, them being the ones that determines what is toxic and what is non-toxic. Now, mind you, this does not have required a black man to have done a single fucking thing in any way to any woman. He can be respectful. He can be soft-spoken, gentle, kind, considerate, consciously aware of his own fuck shit and working to fix it. He could be what most women would say is the ideal dude to have in their life if they're going to have one. And that doesn't matter. Somebody has to be a victim. And so when there is the absence of a victim, the motherfuckers that are intent on winning the blame game, they will make a victim. That's right. They will make a whole group of victims, and they'll make a whole group of perpetrators by doing nothing more than taking the traits of a caricature, a cartoon character that they have inside their brain computer, and assigning those traits to this one word and using that one word as an indictment on every person that shares those traits. Have you started to see yet, family, a clear difference between guilt and shame? Haven't you started to see a clear difference between a lot of the fuckery that we experience and what could bring us wholeness, health, peace, prosperity, loving kindness, and all of that? All of the things that would bring us the good things require effort and evidence. I fucking said it. You want love. Well, love will require some effort from you. And it will also require you to do the heavy lifting mentally and emotionally to understand what it is that you're seeing, to recognize that it's love in the first place. You can't be passive if you want love. It's a good thing, which means you got to work for it. You have to put some skin in the game. You have to make effort toward it. And you have to be willing to adhere to fucking reality. You want prosperity. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to make an effort toward it. And it may not just be your effort. You may have to band with others to join your efforts together so that the sum of your efforts is greater than the individual parts. Which means you're going to have to learn the art of negotiation. Which means that you're going to have to make sure that everybody gets a piece of the pie and everybody wins. Which means that your individual agenda may have to take a back seat to a group agenda that's able to advance all of your individual agendas. And it also requires that your ass pay attention to reality. It don't give a fuck about your feelings. Prosperity don't care about your feelings. Prosperity is mathematical. You either have it or you don't. You want education? Oh, you will definitely have to work for education. You'll have to spend night after sleepless night up reading arcane text and resource material that nobody has dusted off in ages but you. You'll have to actually pay attention to and listen to individuals with viewpoints that may even be currently diametrically opposite to your own. And you will not only have to understand your viewpoints and the premises that lie behind the conclusions that you've arrived at, but you'll also have to understand the premises step by step and the conclusions that your opponents have made. It's going to take effort from you. Work. And guess what else? Education requires that you have to pay attention to reality. But if you notice all of the negative shit that we experience as a people, as a collective, as individuals, all of the negative shit all requires that you just do two simple things. One, be as apathetic, lazy, and unwilling to do anything as you possibly fucking can be, and be willing to deny reality at every fucking turn. Everything. Everything. Think of something negative. Think of something bad right now. And I can guarantee you that that something bad had something to do with somebody just being completely unwilling to do anything, to lift a finger, and also to deny the truth of matters, the reality of the situation. What's that old saying, family? That all it takes for evil to persist and win is for good people to do nothing. Many of us shy away nowadays from language and pronouncements that herald the advent of a moral base or a moral code or ethical base. We have been taught that since there is no objective right or wrong in most things, that everybody's opinion about morals and ethics counts. You want to slap your man and call him a piece of shit? All right. There's some moral or some ethic that justifies that. You want to have sex with animals? There's some moral or ethic that justifies that. Moral relativism is the term that's used to describe the morass, this swamp of morality. Because a lot of people say that our countries or our peoples or our persons are filled with immorality. No. I think that there's just simply no clear morality that anybody's really choosing to adhere to. Morality is like the wind blows. Whatever goes, they change it up. So people now that say to black people, you know, us, when we talk amongst each other and we start talking about morality, oh, that's a quick way to initiate the blame game. When we say, brother, selling drugs to your people is wrong. I know you're struggling out here, man. Let's see what we can do to get you some training you need to be able to either start your own enterprise or to work with somebody who's doing something. Oh, man, you don't understand what it's like for me out here. You don't know what real nigga life is about. You can't tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy. Sister, you know, like, you beautiful just the way you are. You know, you don't have to go out and spend all that money on this, that, and the third. Are you trying to tell me I can't change my style up? I can't look how I want to look? It's my money. You ain't my daddy. You don't tell me what to... You make any type of pronouncement about anybody these days that might be able to change their behavior in some way, shape, or fashion, to change the way they think in some way, shape, or fashion, you in for the fight of your motherfucking life. Because everybody thinks morals and ethics only applies to somebody else nowadays. Not to them. I do what the fuck I want to do. But y'all niggas better do what I tell you to do. Nobody wants to be held accountable. Part of the reason why the blame game is so prevalent amongst us is because nobody wants to say, you know what? You're right. I fucked up. I dropped the ball. I messed up on this. This was my bad. Here's exactly what I did to cause this problem. And here's what I intend to do to make sure that it is not a problem moving forward. You know, accountability. You know, grown people shit. Nobody wants to be held accountable for shit these days. Black men, they say, shy away from accountability. And I would argue that there is nobody in this society who is more accountable than the black man. We make a mistake once, we pay for it. There's no escape. If we are guilty of anything, we pay the penalty. Always. Matter of fact, sometimes we pay harsher penalties. Most times, we pay a harsher penalty than anybody else. They say that we lack accountability. That's okay, Miss Denny. You ain't late. You right on time. Welcome to the broadcast. They say that the black man doesn't want to be accountable for his rampant and disgusting fuckery and betrayal of the black nation. When's the last time, family, just as a personal side, if you watching live, tell me. If you in here, first of all, I want to know you here. So you come to my house, let me know you here. Let me shout you out. But let me ask you a question. When's the last time you known a black man to get away with anything? Like, I'm not talking about if he didn't get caught, okay? Right? I can understand a black man getting away with something if nobody fucking knows about it, right? Like, if I smack you in the face and the only person knows is you, and you subsequently lose your mode of speech and can't tell nobody, I'm likely to get away with it. It's fucked up, right? But in that instance, I can see it. No, what I'm asking is very specific. When's the last time you've known a black man to get away with anything that people knew about? If you're watching live, just tell me. If you know a circumstance, or when's the last time you heard of a situation with a black man that got away with something, an obvious wrong, right? There was an obvious act that was committed. There was an obvious victim, and his guilt was clearly established, and he got away with it. Go. Because I can tell you, anecdotally, of course, this isn't evidence, just my personal experience. I can tell you from my personal experience as a black man, a black male, that there has never been a goddamn thing that I've done that has come out into the light that I have not paid a price for, sometimes overpaid for. Never. Not once. Not once. Right, Miss Denny Crickets? It's a simple enough question. King, I know you know, brother. You my elder brother. King, when was the last time you committed a wrong, a clearly established wrong, right? Where it was obvious that you done wrong, right? There was an obvious person or persons that was hurt by what you've done, right? So you were guilty and you were able to just walk scot-free. No consequences, no nothing. You're my elder brother. You have more life experience than me. When was the last time you had that happen to you? While King prepares his answer, thank you. Nuff said. He is my elder brother. I'm 45. I'll be 46 next month. All things, going good and all. No catastrophic incidents is happening and shit. If the FBI don't come and get me or they don't clone your boy or whatever the thing is that goes down, right? I'm making it to 46 next month. All right? King said it's never happened. He always is chastised. That's two brothers right there that you heard from. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Right? My story by itself don't mean shit. I could be mentally deluded. But I'm telling you, I have never committed a wrong or committed an act against anybody where there is clearly established wrong act committed and a clear victim, and I am guilty of sin that I have never been held accountable. My brother King has never experienced that either. And I feel very fucking comfortable arguing that there isn't a black man anywhere in your eyesight that has committed a clear act of wrong, a clear violation of some rule, some law, where his guilt was established, that got to walk away scot-free with no consequences and no repercussions. It don't happen. But I can tell you a group of people that does happen to. Your sisters. Your sisters are able to commit all sorts of horrible acts. From violations of your individual person, assaults, attempted murders, mutilations. They can destroy your property. They can steal your property. You can have their ass on video camera. You can have them on a digital recording with high fidelity THX sound that could be played in a movie theater. Which I would think establishes her guilt beyond any type of reasonable doubt. And she could still walk. Your brother commits a single wrong, legally or otherwise, there will be consequences and accountability, whether he wants to be accountable or not. But we have people who, with a straight face, on national forums, posting articles that say we shouldn't lock any woman up. That no matter what criminal acts or wrongs they may commit, there shouldn't be any consequences. That if she's doing wrong, if she's committing criminal acts, if she's assaulting people, insulting people, disrespecting people, being a public nuisance, acting a complete motherfucking ass, she needs help. Not punishment. It was primarily black men. Right? King said, and what's upfront about this is they always want you to admit it after they drag you to the mob. Thank you. It's not enough that they've established your guilt, right? That they've used, gathered their evidence, they did their investigations, and they got you, right? They caught you dead to rights. No, that ain't enough. You have to then own up to it. Yes, mama, I cannot lie. I did steal an Oreo out of the cookie jar. I know you told me to keep my hands out of it, but I did it. Not enough that she busted you, because you're going to get in trouble anyway, right? You don't escape consequences as a black man. It doesn't fucking happen. So your ass is sunk. But that's not enough. You also have to own up to it. You have to admit what you've done. We don't escape accountability for shit. But your sisters do. There was a show that I mentioned on a broadcast. I don't know if the show is still on because I don't really watch TV like that. But there was a show on that had a guy from 2020, John Quinones, on it as the host. It was called What Would You Do? Right? And it was basically a show about different scenarios, right? Where they wanted to see how people would react, how they would respond given certain situations and shit. Some of those situations was funny as hell. Some of them were absolutely horrifyingly heartbreaking. Like the time there was a homeless man who, now these were actors, but this homeless man played like he was unconscious, laid out on the sidewalk, not moving, apparently not breathing, and people just stepped over him. He could have been actually dying or dead on the sidewalk, and people just walked right over him. But the reason why I brought up that show is because there was a lot of these scenarios that had to do with men and women. And what was always interesting to me was the responses to the same scenarios, but a change in the gender. Right? So I'll give you a scenario. You got a couple dating, long-term relationship, married, whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. But a couple. And they get into a fight. They arguing to beat the band, going off on each other, right? And then one of them hauls off and punches the other one in the face. But that's not all. After punching the other one in the face, they then go out with a crowbar and start breaking the windows out of the car. They take the tines on the crowbar, the pry bar, and bust the tires on the car. And then to put the cherry on top, when the person comes running out after cradling their face from having gotten socked and are outraged about the property damage being done to their vehicle, the person then, to cap it all off, swings on them with the crowbar, the pry bar, and breaks their arm before storming off into the darkness. Okay, that's the scenario. A couple get into a verbal altercation or argument, whereupon one is physically assaulted, punched in the face. The person who did the punching then goes out and proceeds to commit thousands of dollars of acts of property damage. And then when confronted about the property damage they were doing, then proceeded to aggravate the assault by breaking the arm of the individual they already punched in the face before leaving the scene. That's the scenario. Now, let's take a look at this, shall we? The person that got punched in the face, who had their car torn all to pieces, and then their arm broken, was a black man. What do you think is likely to be the response of law enforcement, the judicial system, and so on and so forth when his partner, the female, is apprehended, if she is apprehended? What do you think is likely to occur? I could tell you what I've seen occur. What I've seen occur is that she will probably be arrested. But if she's arrested, when she goes to court, she won't serve any time in jail. They just don't throw women in jail like that right now. But just keeping it a buck. You have to commit some fairly egregious crimes as a woman before you face any jail time. That's borne out in the data, by the way. I'm not going to give you that information. Do the heavy lifting yourself and find the research for yourself. Women just ain't getting locked up like that. That's assuming, of course, that they treat it as a criminal matter. If she gets in front of a psych, you know, a psychologist or psychiatrist or something like that, and they diagnose her with some shit, like borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, what was obviously a crime committed against that brother will be discounted based off of her need for mental illness treatment. So she won't do no time. She'll be required to maybe take some classes. Definitely required to get some medical attention for her mental health issue. And the world keeps spinning. All right? I'm just keeping it a buck, family. Based off of all the evidence that I've been able to see, all of the data, when you look at intimate partner violence and so on and so forth, especially amongst black people, that's the usual play out of the scenario when the black woman is the aggressor, the batterer. You know, because brothers get their ass kicked too. They get assaulted too. They get their shit tore up too. Now, flip the script. And now the aggressor is the black male. And y'all tell me that black men don't have to face no accountability. Go ahead. Tell me with a straight face that in that scenario that I laid out, he punched her in the face and then proceeded to go out and destroy her vehicle. And when she came out upset and outraged at the destruction of her car, he then shatters her arm with a crowbar, a pry bar, and then breaks camp, running off into the night. That's a brother that's asking for a death by police officer. He's already established that he's aggressive. So when they come after him, they're coming after him in force. They're not wanting to hear he's unarmed. They don't give a fuck if he experienced a mental health crisis. They don't care if he's got undiagnosed schizophrenia or PTSD or bipolar disorder or motherfucking hangnail. They don't give a fuck. When they come after him, they're coming after him in force. So it's a distinct possibility that he may never even make it to jail. He may be one of those brothers that we mourn the extrajudicial execution of. King says, so basically the system is against the black man generally. King, at this particular point, I feel very comfortable arguing that this entire system is against the black man specifically. Because our sisters now have been incentivized through educational attainments, employment opportunities, and various other nigger trinkets to ensure that her rise means the demise, the fall of her brothers. That's what I argue. That's where the evidence leads me. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that sisters do not have an incentive, that they have not been incentivized to betray the one fucking group that they need to be able to be liberated. Prove me wrong. I'm not saying this from a position of hate. I don't hate black women. I love black women. I'm not. Trust me, if I hated you, you wouldn't hear shit come out of my mouth about black women. This isn't even a problem. This is dangerous. Okay, I understand. How do we get back our black sisters side by side with us? Good question, King. One of which I've been pondering on a great deal. And believe it or not, I keep coming up with the same few items that I think might be effective. The problem is that just like whiteism, it's hard to get a motherfucker to give up something that they benefit from. The reason why we don't have justice under whiteism is because the pale people don't want to lose the ill-gotten gains that they've gotten from whiteism. That's a fact. Whiteism was in place to ensure that they have those gains and that they keep them, right? So liberal pale people especially, but pale people in general are okay when you start talking about we need to love each other more. You know, like motherfuckers like Common, you know, reaching out the hand to love and shit and crossing the lines and all, right? When we on some kumbaya shit. They're okay with that. They're okay when we talk about we need to have more positive interaction with each other. You know, these real nebulous, individualist things that some motherfucker can do and then go home to their ill-gotten gains and still feel good about it at night. Feel good that they, you know, feel like they're still a good person. The problem comes in when you start demanding that whitists give up their ill-gotten gains from the activities and the wrongs that they've done us. When you start demanding justice economically. When you start talking about reparative justice and restorative justice. When you start talking about what the motherfuckers will have to give up, you lose all of them. All of them. Across the board. It don't matter how much of a liberal they are. It don't matter how much they commiserate with you about the latest killing of one of our brothers or sisters in the streets by the pigs. It don't matter none of that shit. As soon as you start talking about what these motherfuckers might have to give up or lose in order for justice to be done by us, you lose them. You lose them. And it's the same with the sisters. When we give, because King, this conversation that we have in various forms has been going on now for nearly 2 generations. How does the black man and the black woman reconcile? Right? So many answers have already been given. King says, I understand our sisters would not want to give up the lifestyles that the system has provided them with, but if we get them of that lifestyle, what do we have to offer them for not going back? I don't know. It's a good question. I really don't know. And the reason why I don't know is not for the reason that you might think, Brother King. The reason why I don't know the answer to that is because I'm not certain we should offer them any motherfucking thing. Yeah, I said it. Because not only have they been incentivized to participate in the public execution of the black man from the public sphere of life itself, but they've also gained from it. So there's a degree of injustice now at this point that's involved. And when someone commits you an injustice, you don't give them reparations for the injustices that they committed against you. That's like, in a sense, Brother King, that's almost like saying that if a pale man stole my car, and I go to him and by hook or by crook, or whatever means I got to do, I get my car back. I also leave him a check for $4,000 or whatever on the motherfucking table. You did wrong to get my car in the first place. You don't deserve to be remunerated for stealing my shit. King, I'm not certain that we should be sitting here doing more sacrificing because, look, the problem is that the sisters essentially at this point have had their cake and eat it too. They still acculturate us, you and I, Brother King, to be their protectors, their providers, their maintainers and sustainers, even when we ain't got it like that. Even when they have been having the primacy of place in the economic sphere, in the educational sphere, and in every other measure that you can measure, sisters are doing better than us. But they're still acculturating us to be what they have had the opportunity to be for the last 2-3 generations. Okay. Right? And not only have they been given that primacy of place, but because it now incentivizes them, they work overtime to maintain it. And it don't matter what injustice that they have to commit against the black man in order to maintain their position. Because remember, these dumb motherfuckers don't see it as anything but a zero-sum game. In other words, they don't understand that their rise should be our rise. Together. No, their rise necessarily means my fall. So I'm not real keen on offering a group of motherfuckers something in return when they should be doing something like they tell us all the time, right? So when a black man says, you know, you should respect black men and you should care about black men and this, that, and the third. What's the first thing they tell us? Well, what you bring to the table. In other words, what's your utility? How can you serve me, black man? Your life has literally zero motherfucking value to the extent that your life has zero utility to sisters. The same as it is under whiteism. Your life, your purpose, black men, for being here under whiteism is that everything you are, say, can be, have, and do has to be to the benefit and to the service of those people who are the pale people. And to the extent you do not have no utility to do that, your life is forfeit. Being black and breathing in this motherfucker is a death sentence. It's a capital offense. Just like that. Our sisters have also placed our value, our worthiness to have life itself off of our utility to them. Off of our willingness to be used by them. This is why people like She Who Must Not Be Named get to tell us that we don't deserve no respect, no kindness, no human decency, no nothing, yet are still supposed to defeat whiteism for her and her ilk. King said, my brother, that analogy you just give it is different than our sisters provided a lifestyle to change their mindset and focusing on the lifestyle instead of nation building with our brothers. King, I'm with you on this one that we can build a nation together. But the problem is that we have to have both people on the team. And we cannot offer, at least currently, enough of an incentive to take them away from the ill-gotten gains they get by diminishing us. I wish it was different. But you're right, King. I focus on the mind too. This is a mentality. This is bald, naked mentality. This is the thought processes, right? The premises upon which our sisters have based their conclusions and thus derive their actions from. They have concluded that it is their collective benefit that they diminish black men. I'm not saying all of them, and I don't have to say it. It's not all of them. It's enough of them motherfuckers. And so because of this collective semi-awareness that they can only rise to the extent that they see me diminish, then why in the hell would they change their mind, their mentality? Why? What incentive do they have to give it up? That's the problem with whiteism. What incentive do white people have to give it up? When we talk about whiteism, we have no problem with using verbiage, language that means that we have to combat them, that we have to be at war with them, that we have to see them as enemies. Yet, King, you, I, and a lot of other brothers actually have recoiled from the fact that, truth be told, many of us are already sleeping with the enemy. We don't want to acknowledge that internecine war, that civil war, that a portion of our population has been co-opted by our collective and historic enemies and have become, in a real sense, enemies themselves to us. We don't want to acknowledge that. And I get why that is, because first of all, it hurts. I'm not sitting here saying this because it feels good to say. That shit hurts. The idea that my mother, that my sisters, that my aunts, that my grandmother, that a woman I might choose to mate with have been incentivized to see my demise, and they don't see a fucking problem with it. That shit hurts. And King, that's why we're not telling the truth of the matter. You're trying to take the high road, and I get it, because we brothers are used, especially us thinking brothers. We're used to trying to make this a high road thing. Well, brother, I'm sorry, but this is a grimy ass, dirty, filthy ass truth that we have to accept. I agree. We got to make some drastic decisions. We have to make some choices for the betterment of all of us. Yeah, again, brothers are required to come in and save the day. Now, King, with that foundation having been laid, my brother, because now it appears at least that you see where I was going with this. And I'm glad you and I are kind of having a meeting of the minds here. Now we can talk about possible solutions. Brothers, we need to start establishing our boundaries, and we need to start telling what our boundaries are. That's facts. You, my dear brother, my esteemed brother, have every right to preserve your personal integrity, your bodily integrity, your mental integrity, your emotional integrity. And the only way you can do that is by creating a cell wall, a boundary. And you need to make sure that you clearly communicate that to everybody in your lives, your brothers, the women and sisters around you, to the pale people. We teach people how to treat us. It's time for black men to stop playing the passive role in this combat that we're facing and start standing up and being courageous and telling the truth that matters, no matter how hard it is, no matter how grimy it is, no matter how hard it is to accept. My life, King, and your life, my brother, and the life of my son, and the life of my brother, may he rest. All of our lives are not a fucking academic exercise. We are people. We are human beings. And I will be a human being, even if I gotta destroy every last one of you motherfuckers to do it. I don't want that. But I will not be diminished. I will not be removed from the public sphere. I will not be eliminated from life just so that someone else can get another little bit of a tiny come up. We got to establish our boundaries, and we have to stand on them, brother. Exactly. We've been talking too long and not getting anywhere physically. So here's a solution right here. Brothers, they already think you have a problem with not committing to them. They say, Black men wants to fuck everything moving and never wants to stick with anybody. So I say prove them wrong. Keep your dick to yourself. Exercise some control over your shit. Since the tables in our community has been reversed, like in other people's, the woman is the sexual selector and the male is the sexual pursuer, because our whole culture has gone kitty wumpus and women now think that they're men and trying to put us in the position of the female. Since they made you the sexual selector, don't choose them. I'm not saying go out and choose Becky. I'm not advocating for no fucking swirling bullshit or any of that. What I'm saying is that for now, it may be much more beneficial for you to keep your energies to yourself. That's a hard road to hoe, brothers. I get it. I'm sorry. This is going to sound crude, but I like pussy just as much as the next cat. But there are avenues by which you can pursue that temporarily to have your physical needs met without any of the enforced utility and interactions that a lot of these sisters who have been stolen, who have been co-opted, will demand from you. And that's just facts. True. King, not all black men are doing that, but we all getting labeled on that. So you know what? It's just like, see, King, brother, you've been following me for a long time. So you are going to understand me when I say this. Isn't it strange the parallels between the situation that black men are facing right now and what black people face under whiteism? I can guarantee you, King, that if you were to try this one day for me, brother, do this for me. One day, I want you to maybe watch a broadcast by a black woman. Anyone, just pick one. They're damn nearly ubiquitous at this point. And close your eyes and forget about our natural cadence in the way we speak English. Just listen to the rhetoric. And you tell me if you can point any differences between what she's saying and some shit you'd read on a white supremacist website. Just like the pale people fear us and the justice that is due us, our sisters fear us and the justice that they're fucking due. Which is why they don't ever want you to talk about things like traditional values. Right? Because traditional values say that men and women both play a role in the harmonious interaction of a family. Traditional roles say that each of us have our role to play. And even if the roles get reversed, that doesn't take away our role that we have to play. It just means that somehow there's been a reversal and we need to work together for a course correction. They don't want you talking about traditional values. If you are a brother that believes that a woman should be your helpmeet, right? Your partner in crime, your Bonnie to your Clyde, you are fucked. You are fucked in the head. Not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying, though, that if you still are holding to that, you're doomed out here. I pity the women that you have a choice to have to mate with. Because they're not on that. Not in the era of leaving your kids at home all times of the day and night to go out at the club dancing and looking like a hoe and this, that, and the third. You can't even say hoe. You can't even call a hoe a hoe. You know, because back in the day, we actually used to have standards for what a woman should look like when she appears in the public sphere. It wasn't masculine, it wasn't men's standards. It was a standard that everybody held. Some of the women who would shame these women the worst were other women. Girl, what you out here doing dressed like that? You look like a slut. You look like a hoe. You need to take your grown, nasty ass back in the house and put on some clothes. It wasn't us brothers enforcing that. but you can't even call somebody a hoe. You can't call a hoe a hoe. You can't call somebody who acts like a wild fucking savage animal that runs in packs with other wild savage animals a bitch. Part of the problem is we can't call shit like we see it, black men. But they can definitely call what they see in you, or at least the caricature they have of you in their mind. They can call you that all day. You can go on any forum, anywhere, and a black man is everything but a child of God. But, oh man, woe betide you if some loudmouth, uncouth, disrespectful savage starts to tongue lash you in a way you wouldn't tolerate somebody speaking to your dog. And after you finally have tried to be a gentleman, after you have finally tried to take the high road, after you have finally tried to say, maybe the sister's having a bad day, maybe she's, going through things or whatever. After you tried to be as understanding as hell, you finally blow off at the top and you say, shut up, bitch. Oh, you're done. You're done. We need to develop, however we decide to do it, and I have actual ideas on how we develop a moral and ethical base. But we need to develop a moral and ethical base as a collective that we then work to establish. Meaning we don't force people, we don't tell people, we don't consign people to the outer darkness who are not currently adhering to that code. No, this isn't another fucking tool to get rid of even more black people when we need every goddamn black life we can get our hands on. But no, what this is this is a tool for building that unity everybody says that we need to build. Having a collective moral and ethical base will give us the unity we need. You know why? Because in order for us to be able to enforce it, in order for us to be able to apply consequences when those morals and ethics are violated, we will have to have unity. So no more of this shit in 2019 of talking about being on code. We don't have a code. We haven't gotten together and organized as a collective and developed a moral and ethical base that we all agree to adhere to so that there's clear consequences when we don't. That's a solution. Developing a moral and ethical code with as many black people as you can get your hands on. You need to be trying to be more inclusive of black people, not exclusive. The question is, who gave them that power to shut men up when they're calling you based on how you dress? I'm going to tell you, King, you know who gave it to them? Johnny Law. Officer Friendly. You know what I'm saying? Inspector McGruff. That's who gave it to him. You know, I have to give credit where credit's due. There's a brother I follow. Shout out to Angry Man. Angry Man really hit me to something at my old ass age that I hadn't even really thought about. And it's sad to be 46 years old and never had thought about this. But the overwhelming reason why sisters can act the way they act toward black men, do the things that they do to us, say the things they say to us, treat us how they treat us, is because at any point in time, the altercation gets too heated. You finally become outraged at the unjust mistreatment that you're experiencing at the hands of somebody who's supposed to be your sister, lover, friend, helpmeet, joy, the light of your life. What is the value of a good woman? Her value is worth more than rubies, according to Proverbs. You know, that type of sister? Nah. You got a wild fucking banshee in your house, a mad savage. Whenever it gets too much, for you and you finally pop off and you call her a bitch, or after she done savaged you verbally and threatened you physically, you finally smack this motherfucker in her face, all she has to do is call Johnny Law. Because you're her side dude. Johnny Law is her mate, her main, her ace. He's the one that she can count on anytime she get into some fuck shit. Anytime she put herself in a trick bag, Officer McGruff will come and save her ass. Parallels, shades of white supremacy. You remember the video I did on my channel called Murder by Numbers, where I talked about how the motherfuckers be calling the police on us in an attempt to try to get us killed? You think your sister can't do the same thing? She can't get on the phone and play Murder by Numbers? How many situations have we seen where some black woman called the police because a brother is flipping out? There was an incident that broke my heart down in Texas. Brother had a known history of mental illness, schizophrenia, to be precise. Brother hadn't taken his medicine. I don't know if it's because he couldn't afford it or if he just didn't have any or whatever, or he just didn't take it. I don't know. But he didn't take his medicine. And he's flipping out. He's having a mental health crisis. So his mama called the police. They show up, pull up into the driveway. Mama's at the front door. She got him standing behind her. And she's explaining. He's got a mental issue. And I think he's going through it right now. We need help. He comes walking out of the front door with what looks like a screwdriver in his hand. And they shot him 5 times, leaving him bleeding and dying in his mama's driveway. Now, this is not me saying that she intended to have her son dead at the end of that interaction. Not at all. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They'll have you caught up in a trick bag, a web of legal and judicial fuckery. And they'll claim it's for your own fucking good. That, see, if you hadn't wigged out on me, you wouldn't be going through this. She'll call the police on you, have you locked the fuck up, have you going to court, have you with restraining orders and shit like that, while being the same bitch that comes put money on your fucking books. These double-minded motherfuckers. She wants her cake and eat it too. She want to be able to dictate to you everything you are, everything you can be, everything you can say, everything you can feel, everything you can think, whatever it is. But she also wants the benefit of being able to control you when you don't acquiesce, when you don't submit. They talk about all black men want black women to do is submit. They just trying to silence us. They don't want to hear the voice of a strong black woman. That shit's all projection. That ain't us, that's them. They the motherfuckers that don't want to submit. They want to squelch my voice. They want to make sure I don't say a fucking thing about anything. Just do until I'm dead. Because then when I'm dead, they'll remember me with fondness. We're here to honor Mark Black. He was one hell of a provider. He worked hard at this place, at this company, on these jobs for 30 and 40 years. And even after his back was nearly broken in that car accident, when he was working on the brakes on the car, he still continued to provide for his family. He will be missed. The only time he give a fuck about my life and my actual experiences was when I meet. That is a fucking problem. That's a problem. And I, for one, am done hemming and hawing about it. Yes, we have a war, a great war that we have to fight with our historic and current oppressors. But I didn't fucking make it to where one whole portion of our population just simply said, fuck fighting. I don't know. What they offering sound pretty good. What you niggas think? Oh, y'all don't like that? Well, fuck y'all. We gonna get it anyway. We gotta go get the bag. Sold us out for a bunch of nigga trinkets. Our sisters and sold us out for the equivalent of fucking beads and pots. On some modern day colonialist shit. But we supposed to be silent about that. We supposed to take the moral high ground. We supposed to be cerebral about it. I got brothers out here that are dying right now on some fuckery, who have worked themselves to death. Or have went out there and played prison games to try to feed an ungrateful bitch and his kids. Or who got caught up in some trick bag because she's out there trying to play like she's the bacon bringer and the breadwinner and get caught up in some shit. And now he's got to go and defend her and he gets gunned down. I got brothers dying every fucking day. But we're supposed to be cerebral about it. We're supposed to take this calm, genteel, serene approach. We're not supposed to feel some sort of way about this. No. We can discuss this calmly. You know? Brothers, I know it hurts, but we just need to suffer in silence and grace. Especially silence. Nobody really much gives a fuck if we suffer with grace. No. There ain't no blame game. I'm not playing it. You're not going to shame me or my brothers into silence about any fucking thing. We are who we are. It is not our fault that because of that caricature, that fucking cartoon that you have living in your head, that you can't see the reality of my existence enough to empathize with me, to share my life with me. You don't get to bitch at me and complain at me about that. That's not on me. That's on you. I'm here trying to tell you my experience. I'm here trying to share with you what life is like for me in this hell known as Fortress America under the auspices of whiteism. And you don't give a single solitary fuck. So you don't get to shame me. I'm not guilty of a goddamn thing except being black, male, and breathing, which we all know is a capital offense in Fortress America. What do you mean, how am I You know what, Khalid? Fuck you. You don't know shit about me. Nothing. I've been with black women. I have black women as family members. I didn't stop being black just because my wife is white, you dumb son of a bitch. I won't even waste my time talking to motherfuckers like you. If you don't want to hear what I got to say, take your ass elsewhere. I'm just as qualified as any black person to talk about what black women do. My whole life, I've spent living with black women. I grew up around black women. My mama black. My auntie's black. My sister's black. My first wife was black. Fuck you. Just because your stupid ass think I'm so mentally weak. No, that's not a question. That is stupid. That is stupid. I bet you wouldn't. You know what, Khalid? Take your punk ass over on one of these white folks' channels and ask them about how many black women they could come into the neighborhood and fuck and still be white supremacists, you dumb son of a bitch. You won't question the bona fides of a motherfucker covered in neo-Nazi tattoos and thunderbolts and swastikas and 1488s and shit. And he could come into the neighborhood. He could have a black wife at home cooking his ass meals and getting his robe and his fucking shit ready for the cross burners. You won't question his bona fides for shit. But you think I'm so mentally deficient, that I'm so fucked up in my mind, that I can't espouse nothing for my people, that I can't love my people, that I can't fight for my people? Fuck out of here. Kick rocks. I don't want you here, and you ain't gonna be here. Get the fuck on. Hypocritical my motherfucking ass. Don't know shit about nothing and always want to start talking. But like I said, that son of a bitch won't go over to no motherfucking channel where there's white folks and question they white supremacy bona fides, they whitest bona fides. But see, low-hanging fruit. He thinks I'm low-hanging fruit. That I don't think. That I can't possibly be somebody who loves, values, respects, desires the best for my people because I happen to be married to a white person. Don't know nothing about me. I have never seen this Khalid motherfucker a day in my life. They haven't asked me, how did it happen? No spirit of inquiry. No trying to get to know a brother to see where I am, how I arrived at where I am. Just start talking out the side of their motherfucking neck. Miss Denny said, could that have been a troll? I don't care. I don't care. Fuck everything about motherfuckers like them. Here I am talking about what we can do to try to get together and include as many black people as possible. And what do we get? We get motherfuckers who want to deflect from the topic at hand, want to question my bona fides of even being able to speak on it, even though last time I checked, I'm black, my family black. I've been around black people my whole life. I am black. So somehow or another, I'm not qualified to talk about a topic that affects black people, specifically black men and women. Get the fuck out of here. You know what? I ain't gonna let this pussy ass motherfucker get my blood pressure up though on a fine Friday such as this. Family, look, develop a moral base and an ethical base, and let's work together to disseminate it. Not being exclusive. Being inclusive. Whatever moral, ethical base that we have will have to be broad because it will need to accomplish or encompass a large number of people. 43 million motherfuckers cannot be a monolith unless we make that monolith one material, basically. Okay? We need brothers especially, but black people in general, we definitely need to start establishing clear boundaries, and we need to be telling each other those boundaries. Brothers, I love you, but our acculturation has made it to where we don't really feel communicative about things. We got to change that. If you can't trust anybody, you know what I'm saying? Go see a therapist, bruh. And learn to communicate with your brothers, right? You can trust me. Shoot me an email. My email address is blackqa@gmail.com. If you can't trust nobody, I'm basically a stranger to you, bruh. Reach out to me. You know, get it off your chest. But establish your boundaries. Set the boundaries of your personal, your family, and your national integrity. I would tell brothers to be accountable, but we already are. So sisters, you need to be more accountable. You are not sacred cows. You are not above critique. I haven't said anything I've said in a spirit of hatred of you. Matter of fact, like I said, it saddens me. It hurts me to have to look at my own sisters as enemies of mine. But that's how y'all operating. That's the facts. Y'all need to be accountable for that shit. And accountability means following the process of forgiveness. You need to acknowledge that you have been incentivized and have taken advantage of incentives that means the diminishment and the demise of your brothers and sisters. You need to acknowledge exactly what you've done to do it, and you need to repent. You need to tell us what you intend to do to make sure that it's not an issue moving forward, because that's the only way that forgiveness is viable. Brothers, refuse to accept being shamed. You have every right to be who and what you are, black man. Stop letting people tell you what you are. Get them out of that caricature, that picture portrait, that cartoon that they have of you in their head and make them interact with the reality of what and who you are. And for those who won't, motherfuckers like this bitch ass Khalid that was in my chat earlier, X them out. Don't waste your time and energy fucking with them. If they don't give enough of a damn about your humanity to actually find out the reality of your experience as a black person, as a black man, that's not somebody you want to fuck with anyway. And family, all of us could use this one. We need to withhold judgment until we have evidence. Khalid has no evidence whatsoever that my being married to my wife is in any way deleterious to my people. No evidence. I haven't changed the game up. I haven't flipped the script on nobody. My message has been consistent from moment one to today. No evidence. Yet running off at the dick suckers. Withhold your judgments. Reality don't give a damn about your feelings. And before you assign guilt to somebody, you need to have the evidence in place, and you need to have somebody who's a clear victim. Stop fucking making up victims just because you want to try and shame somebody and you don't have anybody that's actually been wronged by somebody's choice or behavior or something. There's a lot of motherfucking behaviors that black people indulge in across the board that I won't like. Does this mean that their lives are forfeit? No. Stop drinking the Similac and start eating some fucking milk and potatoes, please. Like, start eating some meat and potatoes. Get off the Similac. We got to stop being so simple-minded. Learn to withhold judgment until you have evidence to support someone's guilt. And then, if you've established their clear guilt, deliver the consequences and don't waver. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like that you're violating yourself if you don't take the high road. If you're not delivering the consequences with poise and grace and erudition. It's like when I was a kid and I done something I knew I ain't had no business doing. And my mama come in there and she start tagging that ass. And I'm crying. And she said, don't cry now. You wasn't crying when you was in there doing that ill shit you was doing. Don't cry now. That's how you need to be when the consequences come. When we've established clear guilt, when we have the evidence on the table, deliver the consequences and do not waver. No matter how they try to squawk, no matter how they try to deflect, no matter how they try to deny the reality of the matter, don't waver. Do not waver. And those solutions, I believe, will be a good start towards sealing the breach between us. Brothers, if you guilty on some shit, if you out of pocket on some real shit, if you guilty, if you out of pocket, if you at home abusing your woman or your children, stop. Go get some motherfucking help, man. Contact a therapist. Ain't no shame in that. You got anger issues or whatever, go get some help, bruh. I'll help you to find resources for that shit. If you out here hurting people, you should feel guilty. If we can establish that you are guilty, I will be among the first to bring the consequences to you. But I don't want you to be ashamed to just be black, male, and breathing, brother. You got every right to be here just as everybody else got the right to be here. Nobody asked to be here, but you here, so you got just as much right to be here. And to be how you are. To be the talking, breathing, acting, thinking, beautiful male, man, boy that you are, man. You have it. You have that right. Get the help you need for the shit that you do that you're culpable for. Because, brothers, we got some work to do on ourselves. We got to learn to be more communicative. We got to learn to be more willing to connect with other brothers and stop pocket watching and hating and all that bullshit that we be doing sometimes to each other. We got some house cleaning to do. We definitely do. We also have a not insubstantial group of brothers out there that are just doing some ill shit to women and children and to other brothers, and they need correction. They need to be addressed. So we got work to do. But brother, I see you, your actual life, your real lived experience as valuable, as important, as something that we all can grow and learn from, and we need you. You've always been told you've been needed, but you ain't never been told you are needed for you being you. Everybody needs you to be everything else. I'm telling you, I need you to be you, my dear, esteemed, beautiful, beloved brother. I need you to be you. I need my brother King to be king. Hell, truth be told, I ain't even salty about Khalid. I need Khalid to be Khalid. We ain't gonna agree, fuck him. He can go elsewhere. But if he's black, his life means just as much to me as my own. So there it is, family. There it is. Another broadcast down. I want to give a shout out to Miss Denny. I want to give a shout out to my brother King, who I love and adore as always. My sister Lila popped into the broadcast. I want to give a shout out to her. I want to give a shout out to Gab, who popped in and said what's up. And I want to give a shout out to you, black people. Sure, I'm bringing the heat, but somebody got to do it. And I'm only doing it from a place of love. I love my motherfucking people, man. Look, I didn't grow up in no major hatred of my people. That ain't why I'm with who I'm with. I wasn't where I was now 5-6 years ago. Trayvon's murder changed me. And I'm sad to say that. I wish that it had been something else. We all have our process that led us to this point of advocacy for our people. Ain't nobody was born here. And I made choices prior to getting here. Some good, some bad. I'm human just like anybody else. But I can tell you, I got a deep, strong, and unabiding love for my people. It's our turn to get a motherfucking come up together. Not nigga trinkets. Not the equivalent of pots and beads. Family, if we work together, we could actually have it all. In a real sense. So let's do work. Thank you, Sister Lila. I appreciate that. I hope to bring a great one each and every time. So family, the rules, right? Because like a daddy, before you leave my presence, I'm going to give you the rules. The rules. Stay safe this weekend. Stay positive with each other this weekend. Tell a black man you love him this weekend, sisters. Brothers, tell a black woman you love her, right? Reach out with the spirit of helpfulness, kindness, reconciliation, and joy. Make sure you maintain your boundaries and communicate them. Start communicating what your boundaries are today. But don't go out there bitter, brothers. Go out there with your head lifted up high. Because we need you to be you. You the shit. Sorry, ain't nobody told you. So I'm telling you. You, who you are the bomb. Warts and all. You can fix your flaws, brothers. You still the shit. And until I next see you, I want to wish you all love, peace, prosperity, and power. Real power to our people.